Just give us 1 second, y'all, and we will call the meeting to order in just a moment.
They just need to be specific about what they're changing. Okay.
Okay, good evening, afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending our Board of Elections meeting. It is May 22nd, 2026, and this is our main certification meeting for the May 19th, 2026 primary, general primary election, as well as we will be setting the advanced voting dates and times for the runoff come June 16th. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order, and I would invite everyone to rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. The flag is right behind the dais here, y'all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next item is the approval of the agenda itself. We're going to make a couple small changes just as a result of waiting on our last provisional ballot, which we need to be adjudicated before we can actually certify the entirety of the election. So that's why we're reordering things to buy ourselves a little bit of time and hopefully still have the meeting in a reasonable amount of time overall. So I would accept a motion to amend the agenda to move the director's report up maybe immediately after public comments.
How about if we move it up right after old business, which all we have to do is approve the minutes?
Sure. Yeah, I accept. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we amend the agenda to move the director's report up to right after number 6, old business.
Motion has been made. I'll go ahead and second that. No further discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of amending the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And then I would accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Motion's been made. I'll go ahead and second. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so it reordered our stuff just a little bit. So our agenda has been approved, and we will have our director's report immediately after our old business. Just before we begin tonight on the public comments, I wanted to briefly address many of the concerns that voters experienced during Tuesday's primary election regarding long lines, wait times at several precincts, and the overall strain that had on our voters as well as our staff. Fayette County has long been recognized as one of the strongest performing election jurisdictions in the state of Georgia, both in voter participation and the quality of voter experience especially. That's an experience we strive to provide, and that reputation really matters to me and the board and the staff deeply. So just putting it simply, the experience that voters had on Tuesday did not meet the standard that we set for ourselves or expect of ourselves. For many people, especially first-time voters, whom we got to see as we were visiting some of the precincts throughout the county, the hopefulness and the confidence that they had going in to cast their ballot is more than a transaction. It really is a civic experience, and no voter should feel discouraged from participating because of excessive wait times or avoidable delays. And that discouragement that could happen to a first-time voter is something we very, very deeply strive to avoid. And ensuring confidence, access, and efficiency in our elections is really not just our responsibility, it's our charge. So I personally regret that we fell short of the level of service that Fayette County voters deserve. I want the public to know that we take these concerns extremely seriously. Our responsibility now is to review what occurred, identify where improvements are necessary, and make those adjustments that are needed to ensure a greater experience going forward. We have the firsthand testimony from voters, poll workers, and our precinct managers, and we will act on the feedback that we have received. And similarly, in the experience that we do not want a first-time voter to have, for a first-time poll worker or precinct manager, we did not empower you, and we do not want to discourage you. And unfortunately, it seems like there may have been some instances in which that occurred. I want to thank our poll workers, our election staff, and the voters themselves for their patience and confidence in us as we try and improve our system, improve ourselves, and balance, the dedication with the realities of a very high turnout election. Our poll workers went through a great deal, and kudos to them is all I can say. Thank you very much. We will continue working to maintain both the integrity of the elections and the quality of the voter experience that this community expects of us. So I gave a presentation to a local political civic group a few weeks ago, and there were 3 words that I talked about that makes Fayette County different in our elections conduct. Really, it's true all across the board, but really in the election department that we and the board have seen. The 3 words are approachability, being able to have folks who come out to a Board of Elections meeting and be willing to vent their concerns, their comments, because we need to hear that feedback. We don't improve without it. The second one is accountability, and it's acknowledging those concerns and taking them seriously and accepting when we have made errors. And the third step is the most important one. It's adaptability. It's changing in order to improve and take real action on anything that has occurred. So those 3 words, approachability, accountability, and adaptability for moving forward with future success, are what I'm very proud of in Fayette County, and it is the 3 pillars that enable us to improve ourselves and make that voter experience exactly what we want to. So we owe the public not excuses, but improvements. So that is what I have to say on that, and with that, I will go ahead and welcome any public comment that wishes to speak. Speakers will be given a 5-minute maximum time limit to speak before the Board of Elections about various topics, issues, and concerns. Speakers must direct their comments to the board, and responses are reserved at the direction of the board. So please, if you have any public comments, please approach the podium, state your name and your Fayette County residency, and then begin your comments.
Jamie Harmon. I am a resident of Fayette County, just so we know, and my information is on file as obvious as a former poll manager, and I'm rather shocked that I'm the only one making a public comment. But I do have questions. When it comes to LNA testing, we need to test every piece of equipment that we have, that we own, in preparation for an election. We do not test according to how many people we think will show up for an election. We test every piece that we own because we never know which piece of equipment is necessary. One of the benefits of using the Dominion system is that you use specially marked paper, secure paper, and we need to confirm that the paper that we are testing to make certain that the scanners themselves are checking to make certain that we're using the secure paper. That is imperative. In 2021, a county they had a situation where someone attempted to put regular paper through the scanner, and the scanner noted that that happened. There's a switch, as I've been informed, that can be turned on or off. That switch should never be off. If that switch is off, that degrades the integrity of the election system. We need to make certain that we are testing our equipment properly. And that's really all I have to add, to say today, but it is a necessity. Please test every piece that we have because we never know when it must be deployed to a location. Ensure that every location has enough equipment to allow everyone to be able to vote. At the end of the day, God has my back. I want to make certain that everyone has the right to cast their vote, and they're able to cast their vote in a free and fair election. And when you limit the access to equipment to vote, that causes a problem. That right there negates the free and fair elections. So if we will, please, let's be above board here in all things. And I apologize for my late arrival because, as a housewife, I have to do things that housewives do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Yeah, please.
Hello, I am Brenda Wicker. I live in Fayetteville, and I managed the number 38 Peachtree City Library early voting and the number 9 Rareover at the Tyrone Library on Tuesday. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for addressing what I'm going to say right here anyway, but I'm going to read it.
Please.
Okay. I've worked many election days over the years and feel we were undersupplied with equipment on Tuesday. We only had 4 BMDs for all of the voters who turned out. At times throughout the day, but especially after 5 p.m. until after the polls closed, it was quite a wait after check-in to get an open BMD. We were in quite a large room, so the small number of machines was very noticeable. I know it was a long ballot, which takes extra time by the voter, but why cut back on equipment on this election when others with a much shorter ballot and an anticipated low turnout, we've had even more machines? Was it a money-saving issue? Each primary I've worked for president and midterm years, the primaries have been heavy turnout. Fayette County likes to vote. On Tuesday, we had a few checkup calls from the office, along with times I needed to call into the office throughout the day. I voiced concern about the wait time and voter comments about the lack of equipment, but no offer or solution was given. I hope for the runoff and in the fall, we will have adequate supplies for the voters we serve. We tried to make the voting process as smooth as possible, and I feel this time we did not win the voters' confidence. Late in the day, I saw later that there had been a Facebook post on the Fayette election page about lack of equipment and lines, but I feel it was a little too late. There aren't that many people that follow the page compared to the number of voters in our county. I work in elections, and I didn't even know there was a page until last year. If a voter was already in line, chances are they wouldn't have even been able to see this post a little before closing, since they were probably within a precinct where they cannot use their phone. Another area of concern has to do with phones, campaigning, and signs. We have the big board at every precinct for the voters' info. Are the materials on the big board mandated by the state? The tri-board is full of many signs that usually aren't read by voters, and several of them have print so small it is difficult to read. I wonder if it could be scaled back and simplified, kind of a less is more. During early voting, we had over 5,400 voters in 18 days at our precinct. We met voters at the tri-board to remind them about things that are printed on the board, and still got pushback about not being able to use their phone, even for their notes about candidates that they wanted to select. Perhaps we could have more direct, simplified signage, so a voter knows information such as it is considered campaigning to speak in the voting booth or share your notes and sample ballot with someone else, even if it is your longtime spouse. Many people fought back on that and became aggressive with our fellow poll workers. We've been told we can call the police, but by the time this is happening, the voter's practically out the door, so it wouldn't be effective. Lastly, I'm guessing you will be discussing days and hours for the upcoming runoff early voting later in the meeting. If you decide to make the hours 7 to 7, would there be any more people to get trained in order to assist in the precinct, or at least help in covering the hours for lunch breaks? In order to get everyone in to have their lunch breaks, we do have to overlap somewhat, leaving us 2 people short in covering all the positions. We will probably see close to the same 5,400 voters, but this time it will be in 5 days. It's a lot of sitting, standing, counting of each voter certificate each day. Is it possible to have an extra person or 2 during the mid part of the day to assist with the line or passing out stickers, watching the exit door, so we can get through those lunch breaks when we're down 2 people? A complaint we and you hear a lot is that voting hours of 9 to 5 for early voting is not beneficial to those who work 9 to 5. Has there been any thought of adjusting the hours in the future to possibly 11 to 7 for early voting? That way people who work until 5 can possibly get to early voting. It's the same number of voting hours, but shifted by 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Am I allowed to read someone else's comments because she can't get here in time?
I would believe so, yes, but the only thing is, I mean,
It's another
Let
poll
somebody
manager.
else go if they want.
yeah, if someone else could go first as well before you give that, but yes. Yeah, that would work as well. Okay. So long time poll manager.
I'm running a marathon today. Okay, my name is Tanya Stibe, and I'm reading a statement that I was just handed from a poll manager, looks like at Fielding House, Lori Sims. So she states, my first batch of voters were not able to pull up their ballots on the BMDs. They each received the same error message. As I was about to reissue a new voter card for a voter, I had a voter announce that she was able to get the ballot up after several attempts of inserting the card. As I tried to call the office to figure out what the problem was, I had a voter announce that she couldn't print her ballot. She pressed print and the screen returned to the beginning. I pulled her voter card, reinserted it, and the ballot came up. I apologized and asked her to vote again. She did, and the same thing happened again. This poor woman tried to vote 3 times, and each time she had the same problem. I finally moved her to another BMD. While I was working with this voter, another voter announced she was having the same printer issue at another BMD. There was no consistency. Random things were happening with these BMDs. As I was juggling these issues, a voter had a printer error. It appeared the paper tray was overstuffed with paper and the ballot jammed. I pulled the tray out to find the jam. Then I could not get the tray back in because a plastic piece had fallen off of the tray and it would not slide back in. I had to put the BMD out of service and apologetically ask the voter to vote again on another BMD. I then went around and checked the paper trays. They were all overloaded with paper. Mind you, as all this was going on, my line of voters kept growing. I finally had a tech arrive to fix the paper tray and get the station working again. I was finally able to call the office about the BMD issues and was told to do a hard reboot on the BMDs. As my morning was starting to settle down, the scanner decided to jam. I called the office and it was determined that we should use the slot on the scanner for the ballots until a tech could get out to my precinct. By the time my tech arrived, we had 100 ballots in the emergency ballot bin. She fixed the scanner and stayed to help feed the ballots into the scanner. As our afternoon went on, our scanner decided to jam a second time. I happened to be on a call with the office when it jammed. They said they would let April know. After about 30 minutes, I called the office asking if a tech was coming to fix the scanner since the polls would be closing in an hour and a half. I was walked through the process of fixing the scanner and got it working again. We had 39 ballots from the emergency bin to scan this time around. In addition to all of the hardware issues, our 4 BMDs were far from enough for such a long ballot. After waiting in line to get the poll pads, my voters had to wait in line for a BMD. I had some voters leave because the line was too long and barely moving. It was ridiculous that we were only given 4. This limited number of BMDs was an added annoyance we had to explain to our voters. Then, in a casual conversation, I found out at 5:30 p.m. there were extra BMDs and all I had to do was ask for more. Are you kidding me? When did I have time to ask for more? Why wasn't it offered? One other thing, in our trainings, we need to discuss how to act when equipment stops working. I had one worker shaking the scanner when it jammed. Then he got his flashlight and announced that he could see the ballot and he would find a coat hanger and try to get it out. This was all going on while I was on the phone with the office. There were other times several workers huddled around me to see what the problem was and give their opinions on how to correct the problem, and totally ignored the voters and their stations, all while I'm on the phone with the office. I have been working elections for 6 years. I honestly felt like this was the worst election I worked. It was worse than working during COVID.
Thank you. Any additional public comments? Please approach the podium, state your name and your Fayette County residency.
I'm Philip Thomas, and I was a tabulator observer on election night, and I just have a couple of comments here. The first one was there was no seating in the public viewing room. I was able to get my partner and I were able to get a couple of lawn chairs and just set them up there, but I think you should
Can
consider
you raise
adding.
your microphone, please?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, raise it, just so you don't have to bend over. That's good. Thank you.
And especially for people with disabilities, it might be good to have some seating in there. But also, when I was trying to observe, it was a little difficult trying to look through the window. I was generally able to see what was happening, but for transparency purposes, I wouldn't mind if there was easier ways, either putting a screen in the room that could, for the computer, that would show what's happening on the computer when you're putting in the SD card and all that, with reasonable restrictions for privacy purposes. But I would appreciate, in the future, if there was easier ways to see what was happening when you guys are tabulating the votes there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any additional public comments? Okay, I'm seeing none. Okay, seeing no additional public comments, I will close that section of the meeting and move on to our old business. It is just the approval of the April 28th, 2026 regular meeting minutes. And I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the April 28th, 2026 meeting minutes as written.
Okay, motion has been made. I'll go ahead and second. Seeing any further discussion, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to the director's report now, as our agenda has been amended. So Director Garrett, I will hand it over to you.
Greetings, Board. As of May 21st, 2026, there are 98,773 voters in Fayette County. 91,790 of those voters are active, while the remaining voters are inactive. Our risk limiting audit is scheduled for May 29th, next Friday, at 10 o'clock a.m. This time, it will be held at Fayette County Health Department, located on Booker Avenue. That will begin at 10 o'clock a.m. and continue daily until completion. I do want to announce that, logic and accuracy testing for the election will begin on May 28th, next Thursday, at 9 o'clock a.m. at both McDonough Road and 175 Johnson Avenue, and that will continue daily until completion. As far as staffing, we do have a new election supervisor who will start on Tuesday. She does not come from the election field, but she has a very extensive professional experience in operations, coordinations, technical project management, including technical infrastructure program management. Her background includes managing complex projects, overseeing operational processes, coordinating cross-functional teams, and working in fast-paced environments. So I look forward to what she has to give, and I also look forward to giving her back all of her duties over time, but those that I can give away immediately. As far as the last item that I have to talk about is polling locations. So Whitewater has relayed to us that they will not be available again for their summer camps.
Whitewater?
No,
you say
Stars
Whitewater?
Mills.
Huh?
You are correct. Stars Mills at One Church, number 13.
Sorry.
Will not be available. You were right. Will not be available for the upcoming election. Whitewater High School has told us that they're not available. However, I do want the opportunity to speak back with them again because that's a large precinct. I mean, every precinct surrounding it is large as well, and I know we talked about Whitewater before the meeting, but I'm trying to avoid putting 6,000 voters in one location. So I did reach out to another church as well that is not currently serving as a location in hopes that they say yes, and it's 3 minutes down the street. So it's 0.3 miles away. So I will keep you updated on that. Either way, a decision has to be made by Wednesday because we only have those 7 days before an election to put signage up and decorate the precinct 7 days before the election. She left. So I will have to have an answer. The worst case scenario, we will have to co-locate. I did talk with Vice Chair Alexander, and she had some pretty good suggestions that she handed off to me as well. The second polling location that I learned about yesterday is number 31 Field and Ridge at the Kedron Aquatic Center. They too have also informed me that they do not have any space due to ultimately Peachtree City is having renovations. So the room that we would typically use, they are in that room currently. So they moved us to their art room for this past election, but now they have summer camps over the summer. So they are currently seeking us to relocate. However, I did ask yesterday for City Hall to kind of back us up a little bit, support us either in finding another location or just trying to brainstorm some ideas so that we do not, once again, have to move voters before the election. So I will be looking into both. Again, Vice Chair Alexander gave me some suggestions because you all have been to all of the precincts. So I've been to Kedron Aquatics. I can't get the names mixed up. But I have not been to One Church, so I'm not sure what that looks like, nor have I been to Whitewater. So just looking at the spacing and what that looks like before this upcoming election. So I will keep you all posted. Outside of that, that concludes my director's report. I'll talk some more later. But did you have any questions for me?
Yeah. You're going to cover advanced voting somewhere else? It's on your director's report?
It's next. It's after the certification of the meeting.
After certification, okay.
Yes.
Do we generally, I'm just asking, because we have a number of really large churches. Granted, a couple of them have closed. But for example, in Peachtree City, we have some really large churches that we haven't used in the past. Do you generally see that the churches are not available because they have Bible school or summer camps or something like that? I mean, should we be concentrating on public buildings? I mean, is that what we should be doing?
I would love the idea of public buildings. Public buildings may not like the idea, but that is something I want to explore in 2027. But it's going to take a partnership and some support. And when I say support, I mean just not going through the facility. For example, with the schools, building a relationship with the actual school officials, administration, the board, the superintendent, and kind of going down from there. I do not know anyone at the schools yet, but hopefully in the future. But I do like the idea because that seems more feasible. Most of them are already districts, so you have a school in every single polling location. But I will say when it comes to trends, it's not the summer camps outside of one church. It's usually the churches closing down and such. So that's also included in that as well. But I will look into your suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
And if you have any more suggestions, I am definitely open to them. And if you know somebody that knows someone, I am definitely open to it.
Let me think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have pretty strong relationships with the Fayette County schools and some of the administration and leadership throughout the county, as well as facilities people as well as over there. So we should be able to get into contact with them, further develop that relationship, and keep that strong running going forward for all future elections and any facility or precinct needs as well. But yes. Any further questions for Director Garrett? Okay, seeing none, can move on to our items of new business. Of course, the first is the certification of the May 19th, 2026 general primary election. Earlier today at 3 p.m. we had a special called meeting just to review the precinct returns. And thank you. Get a grip, Zach. So now we have our full election summary report for the primary. And do you have any additional comments, Director Garrett, on this election?
Yes.
Before we take action?
Very much so. I do want to circle back to our 3 o'clock meeting and some of the comments that I made there.
Sure.
Even more so, I think it's important to hear from me and not just the board about the concern of the voting equipment, and make sure that I reiterate everything I said in this meeting. So with that, I do apologize for the voting equipment, and I take full responsibility for that. Not having enough equipment, that was an oversight on my behalf. Either further, I did realize it, or at least I tried to catch it the day before, but I did not take into consideration that Fayette is going to vote, and it's a good, I'm not going to say it's a good problem to have, but I love to see the turnout that we had despite, because that's going to help me be able to justify expansion in the future. So I think that the turnout was great despite the challenges. And for the most part, yes, I know people were upset. I did not mind them being upset at me. I did not mind taking a hit for that. But for the most part, other poll workers that I did talk to were in good spirit, but I haven't spoken to everyone yet either. But I want to make sure that I don't want you to think that I don't care. It was definitely an oversight, and I tried my best to deploy as much equipment as I could based off the phone calls, the lines. Even on Monday, we did send out equipment to 6 additional places, which is Brooks, Stars Mill, Whitewater, Woolsey, Kendron, and Rising Star. Europe and Sandy Creek were a major overlook on my part. Europe, I underestimated. I would take that hit. And Sandy Creek, I did not include it on the paper unintentionally, so it was supposed to be included as well. On election day, for the record, which I did say at 3 o'clock, but I do want to repeat it, I sent Europe 4 BMDs, Dogwood 2, Sandy Creek 2, Oak Ridge 2, and Spring Hill 2. And we do, I know Jamie left, but we do LNA additional equipment to have on standby, which is why it wasn't as much of a hurdle to send that equipment out there. We just don't LNA all of our equipment, but we do LNA additional equipment. So every piece of equipment that went out on election day, I have LNA paperwork for in the office. So I just wanted to be clear there. But I do apologize for that oversight, and we'll definitely be making the adjustments going forward, and not just looking at the one last historical trend, but looking at years back as well. So I don't want anyone to think that they don't hear me. I do have a request. I would like I have the comment on record, but I would like more, even from you all, more brainstorming and ideas of how to get information out to public outside of using the poll worker chain. I know we talked about the QR code, but even with Facebook and our website, nobody's really looking at that except for a certain population. So just broader ideas for how we can get information like that out to the public without it just seeming like the only two places to place information. So I'm open to that. And I know we talked about a deputy registrar program, but we got to get ourselves together first before we can start expanding our office. But if you all could brainstorm too, because even a guy came a couple of weeks ago and said the same thing. Kind of need some ideas on that. You trying to get clarity on what I'm asking for?
Yep.
So, for example, I made a Facebook post, and the post did go out at the end of the day. The post went out after I had exhausted all my other options. I felt like I needed to put something out there to at least acknowledge it. But even if I did it early, how can I disseminate that information to the mass public outside of Facebook and our website? Just ideas. So I'm not looking for a solution now, but just something to start thinking about and hearing that from poll workers too. You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I mean, it's improving our public-facing communication
Yes.
with voters and the Fayette County citizens in
Yes.
every possible way. You know, when we look at this past election, we had half of our voters vote early and the other half voted on Election Day. Obviously, that's something that we did not expect, and that is what informed our actions before and the day of. But, you know, even then, getting that information on our early voting hours, dates, and times out to the public as best as possible, making as many flyers as possible, posting them in as many public places as possible, whether they be, you know, a public office that the county owns, or a private restaurant, or any type of area where, you know, it could reasonably and feasibly go up. It's finding the cheapest, most effective ways, to very important factors in that, since this is all taxpayers' money at the end of the day, the cheapest and most effective ways, most cost-effective ways to get that message out to the public, whether it be as to advanced voting times and days, or it be other, whether it be accepting poll worker applications, or voter notification of certain things that are happening in the elections office or in the world of elections. You know, there's a lot of different ways in which we need to communicate the information to the public that is difficult, and that is expensive as well at the same time. So with limited resources, we can only do so much. But Director Garrett, I very much appreciate your comments. And we know what we've done, we know what we did to try and ameliorate the situation, and we know what we need to do to make sure that our patch and our fix is more effective in the future. So, any further questions?
Yeah, I would say, and maybe I'm pipe dreaming here, I would say that if you could send something, apart from a Facebook post or whatever, to the parties, I think we would be more than happy to try to push out anything to the public. I mean, we have websites, and we have, you know, posts that will come up that will ask for poll watchers, or if you need poll workers, whatever, or even just changes. If you would let the parties know, we could do what we could do. I also think that you've got a great work base, if you can develop a relationship with them, in our poll workers. I mean, they can disseminate a whole lot of information.
Don't I know it?
Huh?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so I would say not make it mandatory, but if we could just, if it would help the public, then let them know. I mean,
Okay, I do receive that, and I wrote those down. But I just want to make one comment, just to make sure that we keep the lines straight. So if I send the information to you all, can you send it to your parties as a party representative?
I can.
Can we work it that way?
Yeah, I mean, we still know the people in the parties. I mean, we're serving up here, but we still know the folks that we
And I
can
know
distribute.
sometimes you don't, because you have to separate yourself from your parties with your duties sometimes. But like, for instance, the email that I sent out on Election Day, I didn't mind that being disseminated to the parties. I think that actually would have helped more. But I know that you sit on the board as a board member, unaffiliated, versus serving in your role. So I guess I can indicate that when I send it out there on if I want you to pass information along.
If all you're doing is asking us to help publicly disseminate
Yes.
important information,
There's no problem in that.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Not at all. And even then, also looking at local civic groups, whether it be Kiwanis or Rotary, you know,
Sure.
basically any resource that we can possibly get in contact with and use, we need to try and do. That is for us, so.
I wrote down.
Okay,
Oh,
well, I guess,
I'm not finished. I have to say
Please,
the
please continue.
statistics.
yeah, we are talking about certification, aren't we?
For the May 19, 2026 general primary, we had a 37.89% turnout. A total of 34,627 ballots were cast. As for provisionals, I do need to correct for the record the numbers that I gave you earlier in the day. I did not include advanced voting in my physical verbiage of the report. So we had a total of 27 provisional ballots, and out of those 27, 21 ballots were counted. 6 were rejected because the guy didn't come. So just for the record, 21 ballots were counted, 6 were rejected. We had a total of 34,000, I said it already, 627 ballots cast on Election Day. You'll let me know if you have any questions. That concludes my report of Election Day.
I'm
good.
Except, I mean, we've had a couple of days to look at this other than provisionals, and so, I would make a motion that we certify this report as presented.
Yep, I would second that motion to certify the 2026 general primary election. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to our second item of new business, which is itself the advanced voting dates, times, and locations for the June 16, 2026 general primary runoff.
So
Dr.
for
Wood.
setting the advance voting dates and times, I typically give a recommendation, but a recommendation was given to me this time for it to be held on Monday, June 8th through June 12th, 2026, from 9 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. at the 4 advanced voting locations: Tyrone Town Hall, Fayette County Library, Fayette Elections Office, Peachtree City Library. Those are my recommendations.
Yeah, I think that's a fair recommendation. I think I agree very much with some of the public comments that were issued as to expanding access to early voting specifically for anybody who is working a 9-to-5 normal job. And, you know, that 5 to 7 p.m. window is extremely important, like we had in some previous elections. So, yes, I do support this advanced voting recommendation. Any further comments, Vice Chair Alexander?
No. Do we have coverage for our poll workers to cover? Well, it's only 5 days, so it's not like we're
Yes.
going into Saturday and Sunday.
And we've already reserved those locations as well.
Okay. I think for a runoff especially, I mean, I'm expecting that the runoff is going to drop off significantly from what we saw. So I would say, I think 9 to 7 given, and I'm not sure how many people can make it early in the morning, although on Election Day, it has amazed me how many people show up between 7 and 9, I guess on their way to work. That really surprised me this past time, but I would say I make a motion that we accept the recommendation of having early voting for the runoff June 8th through the 12th from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
I would second that motion, and just as a further discussion item, I would say for public awareness and our own internal operations, we will be expanding early voting again, similarly to how we did for this primary election for the general come November. I'm sure we've seen the larger rates of early voting, and you know, I think one of the things that changed voter behavior in choosing when to vote in this cycle in the primary was the fact that it was such a long ballot that many voters were undecided even when they were going to the polls and had to fill out a sample ballot there physically before they could make their own mind up as to who to cast their ballot for. You know, in waiting, which is what it seems like many voters did, waiting to make that decision, you know, you lose out the flexibility of using that early voting opportunities, and so we had a lot more increased traffic on election day itself. In the future, come November, I think generally folks, the vast majority of people will already have their mind made up, and the candidates will be far fewer, and the number of races will be far fewer. We won't have any judicial races, and we won't have 6 candidates running for a single position or 10 candidates running for a single position. It'll likely just be a Republican and a Democrat in all the races. So a lot of the issues that we've seen in this election, despite the horrible feeling and impact that I myself also felt, we will have not just our own internal improvements that we can apply. We will have a macro level environment that is overall better for us, that will help us to undergo our election operations in all manners. So with that, after that further discussion, I guess I could call the vote. No further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of the advanced voting recommendation, June 8th through 12th, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Tyrone Town Hall, Fayette County Library, Fayette Elections Office, and Peachtree City Library, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to our public hearings. Public hearing of staff's challenges to remove registered Fayette County voters from the electors list who are registered in the state of Georgia's Secretary of State voter registration system as deceased, mentally incompetent, canceled, or felon, as well as precinct and or polling location changes. Of course, this item on the agenda, the public hearings are as needed. When it comes to the normal list maintenance process that occurs in Georgia elections, it's conducted by the Secretary of State at the state level, so we really have very little authority in directly removing voters from the rolls. But I would ask Director Garrett just to recite, I'm trying to find
It's on
the
the
numbers.
director's report, first
Director's report.
page.
Yeah, literally on the page that I'm looking at. Okay. Director Garrett, we've got 63 deceased, 9 felons for a total of 72, which would give us 0 mentally incompetent and 0 canceled.
That's amazing to me that we don't have any people who've moved or.
We're in election posture. So
Oh,
Of course,
because of
that's
dates.
why, yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in election season, the National Voter Registration Act, federal law, says only voters can only be taken off the rolls during certain periods, not around major election times, federal elections. So for a midterm primary or a midterm come November, you can't do anything. I think 45 days is the window on that. But let's see. Okay, so with that, we don't have any public hearings. We've already done our director's report.
may I make another comment?
Absolutely, please.
I do want to address the one more part of the public comment, and that was the question about the signs at the polling location. So 70% of that board does come from the state, and we're not able to amend it, especially the 4 big white pieces of paper that you're literally referencing to. And we did have a lot of people ask questions about the OCGA codes to show the voters that you literally cannot do this. But I'm not opposed to adding additional signage at the BMDs. But again, we still have to rely on the voter reading the signs, and having too many signs then becomes overbearing. Even pulling out that ballot too early and possibly jamming the printer or losing your actual vote from the card or it still being on there. We did put an orange sign on the printers, every last one, and we still had the same issue. But I'm not opposed to doing some more brainstorming. So she is right, but I do want to give her credit because out of the advanced locations, nothing against the other ones, but when I did go and visit them, they did a very good job of stopping people outside before they even went into the voting part and making sure they understood the sample ballot. I even saw 3 sets of people filling out their sample ballots at the tables that they had, so that when they go to the BMDs, they would have their selections marked. And I thought that was really good and a really effective way to kind of bring down anybody changing their ballot styles or staying there too long. So I do want to give you your kudos on that. I thought it was a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Director Garrett. This brings us to our attorney's report. So you got anything for us, Patrick?
I do not, no.
Thank you very much. And then, of course, next is our board members' reports. So Vice Chair Alexander, I'd invite you to offer a report if you have one.
Sure. I don't know if there's much more that we can say. This past Tuesday was a real eye-opener. That'll be putting it mildly. I think that we owe a great deal of thanks to all of the poll officials and to the election staff. I mean, the fact that we had one precinct that couldn't come in until 11:35 at night, the public has no idea what you all are doing. And that's amazing to me. To even have, I think what they said was they had 100 in line at 7 p.m. Now that one I really want to look at, because I clearly do not understand why we would have 100 people in line at 7 p.m. I don't know whether that's an equipment issue or just process, but I'm sure we're going to look at that because nobody, wants to experience that again. So I'm very thankful for a lot of people. I think that this whole thing will give us an opportunity to look and see. And I personally, I think, Brianna, I mean, we would appreciate those of you who've done this for a long time can maybe help us understand. You've said more BMDs. I think I heard when I was going around that we were having issues with poll pads. The time it took to cancel a person who took a nonpartisan ballot, and something about it, you had to go to the state to cancel that person. Did I hear that right? I think that could take 10 to 15 minutes. I don't know that we have extra poll pads, but we certainly don't need one taken out of commission for 10 or 15 minutes if we've got a long line. So I don't know that we can do a lot about it. But going around and visiting, I mean, we saw a lot of things that we've got to think about and plan for. So I just appreciate everything everybody did, and know that we're all concerned about it and willing to try to work on it and make it better. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair Alexander. I'll reiterate a lot of that. I talked about it earlier, but in Fayette County elections, we set a very high standard of excellence for our conduct and for our behavior and for the relationships that we have with our voters and the public. And again, we did not meet that standard that we set for ourselves on Tuesday, putting it bluntly. We fell quite far short of that. And so that's something that's on us. That's something that's on me. That's something that's on Vice Chair Alexander. It's something that's on every staff member, every poll worker. It's something that we have to, really reckon with seriously, and in order to improve the experience for our staff, improve the experience for the voter, and make sure that Fayette County elections and the voter experience in Fayette County actually looks and feels like Fayette County should. When we do have folks waiting in line to vote at 7 p.m. or waiting in line to vote at all, really, that is something that is anathema to everything we believe and try and implement in Fayette County. So I just want to, again, extend my sincere thanks to everybody who came out to give their public comments, to show up to this meeting, and to articulate, whether it be internal or public facing, just like this, what we need to hear, the feedback that we need to operationalize, and the improvements that we need to implement. So with that, I would just say, yet again, thank you to all the staff, thank you to our poll workers, and thank you, Director Garrett. And I don't have anything further, so seeing that we have no executive session required, I guess I could go ahead and accept a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, a second is not needed, but I will go ahead and do it. Any further discussion?